beautiful people. Welcome back to Showgirly Swag. It is your girl Gemma here, and today we are learning about how to contour and highlight for the stage. So if you would like to see how I personally highlight and contour for the stage, please keep on watching. Let's talk about the difference between bronzer and contour. A bronzer is going to be more warm, and it's definitely going to give you more of that sun-kissed feel. I like to use this on a day-to-day basis. I don't contour every day. I definitely use a bronzer to just warm up my face and just make it look like I have color, basically. So the product that I usually use, it's Give Me Sun by MAC. Love this. This is amazing. I use it in my crease. I use it on all over my face. Now, when you're choosing a contour, so a contour color should be more of a cool tone. And I really love this Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. These are very cool toned colors, right? So when you're creating contour on your face, you're basically creating like shadows. And shadows aren't, warm. They're cooler toned. So with that said, let's talk about placement and where we should place our contour. So the contour, basically, we want to define our cheekbones, sometimes make our foreheads look smaller. I also do this with bronzer. And then also, if some of us, our chin is not as prominent as we would like, so we will add some contour here to basically give us more of a chiseled look. Now with that said, not everybody is going to need to contour all of those places, right? I do, I just like to define all of the areas that I can. So for me now, when it comes to my nose, everyone's noses are different, everyone's faces are different. So for me, when I am trying to make my nose look more smaller or narrower, I'm going to place my contour to make my nose look narrow here and here. You'll see, I will demonstrate. You're also going to see how I place it along the bridge of my nose. My nose is more prominent, so I'm not going to want to highlight the bridge of my nose. I'm going to want to place some contour or some shade there. And I will show you. Let's circle back. We want to place our contour here, here, here. Even if you wanted to use a powder, you would want to contour the crease, okay? And the chin and down. And then we have the nose, okay? So the highlighter is going to go here, here, sometimes here, depending on the person's nose, Cupid's bow, and the chin. The technique that I'm going to show you is what I use for when I'm on stage. I don't always do this on a day-to-day basis. For the most part, I just use powders to either contour and highlight and bronze, all of those things. But today, I'm going to show you how I contour for the stage. So I'm actually using this Makeup Revolution. It's a foundation stick that's just darker. It's in the color F14. Okay, now this is a little warmer than I'd prefer, but it works. I'm using this first. So I'm going to lay this down as a base. Then I'm going to put my foundation on. Then I'm going to put on my concealer and then my powders. We're gonna go through all of the steps. Some of you may feel that putting foundation over the contour base is defeating the purpose, but really it helps for the powder after. So what I mean by that is when we apply the powder over the foundation in the areas where we place that cream contour, it's going to catch and show more. And also it's going to last much longer throughout the night. Now with that said, let's jump right into all of this. I'm going to use this brush. Now, all of the brushes that I use in this video, you don't need all of them. I'm going to try to use as little brushes as possible. Okay, so any brush doesn't have to be pointy like this or angled. I like an angled brush because I feel like I'm more precise. I can use the tip to place the product where I want versus something that's more round. And yeah, so that works for me. All right, I'm gonna take this bronzer, it's a cream, wipe it onto my brush. Now the question is, where do we place our contour? I like to use the end of my brush. You wanna, for most people, almost everyone, you line from the tip, just right, that's basically right where your ear meets your skull, and the end of your lip. Now, you would basically draw the line right there, okay? Now, I'm able to actually push under my cheekbone when I do this, and that's where I know this is where I want to place the contour. So I'm gonna demonstrate. Like that. You can take it all the way in if you like. That's okay. I don't. I just usually just sort of like brush down. Let's do our other side too. You don't have to be too careful. Now, what you do want to be careful for is you don't want this product to go down, okay? You want the product to go up, up, up. So what I like to do is draw lines going this way. It just helps keep me on track. Later on, we're going to add some powder to really chisel out this area here. Okay, so I'm going to now continue on with my cream contour application along my temples. You don't want to bring your bronzer down too low, okay? Because it'll make your forehead look really funny. So you just have to be careful. You want to go brush upwards as well when you're doing your contour on your forehead, because you don't want to be able to see your scalp. Your scalp is lighter than your actual skin. So later on, I'm going to show you how to blend into your scalp. Okay, I'm gonna work my nose now. Okay, and now my jawline. So to chisel my jaw, I want to make it look more pronounced and then work it down. You can be a little heavy-handed here, especially since we're putting foundation over it. So don't be afraid, we will be blending. All right, now, I do highly recommend this little e.l.f. brush. This thing is like $3, it's amazing. It's like a stippling blending brush. The stippling brushes are my favorite brushes because they just help blend everything into each other. This is important to blend your cream contour. You definitely want to have something like this. And I like that it's smaller, right? It's not too big, so I'm able to really focus on certain specific areas. And I want you to notice something. It kind of goes in a triangle. You see this triangle that I've created? It's a little triangle. Okay, that comes with time. You will definitely get really good at blending your contour and placing it in the proper areas the more that you do it. Practice is everything. Now, if you see how I'm brushing into my scalp, into the scalp, circles, and then buff back. Circles and brush up, 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 up. Now I use the tip, I don't know if you can tell here, I'm using the edge, it's a circle, so I'm using the edge to also buff. Because if I go here, it's going to bring the bronzer down. So I'm just trying to buff it into my skin and not bring it down. Same thing for my nose. I'm gonna try to keep it in the area that I placed it and then buff around. I'm gonna bring it down some. It might look funny right now, that's okay. All right, now let's jump right into that foundation. Okay, from here, we're gonna go in with foundation. So I'm using a wet Real Techniques beauty sponge. I like to use it wet because it absorbs excess product, because I really don't like to have a lot of foundation on my face. Even for stage, I like a sheer coverage, because I then apply other powders and highlighters and stuff on top. So you can use a brush, you can use a beauty sponge, totally up to you. If you're going to use a brush, just be careful you don't move what you've already placed around too much. Okay, foundation that I'm going to be using today is the Born This Way by Too Faced. I'm going to use my finger to place the product on. I do this no matter what. I just feel like I get more of an even coverage this way. Oh, I forgot to do my chin. All right, so now we want to work it down. You could even blend your contour, into your ear, so you don't look like you have, white ears, or just like your ears look completely different than your face. So you want to blend that contour in and then work it down. Now, working this downward, especially for someone who doesn't have a lot of a chin, will really make it look like you have more of a chin than you really do. So blending it down is very important, getting under that chin. Okay, let's keep moving. Okay, I'm gonna use this beauty sponge. I'm patting and working outward. If you have excess foundation, you can always place that excess foundation along your chest to make everything look cohesive. I'm not going to do that today because I'm just doing this, filming this here for you. So I'm just going to wipe the rest off with a makeup wipe. Okay, so now what we want to do is make sure that we let our foundation sort of dry, okay? You can always, which I'm going to do, is I'm just going to set my makeup a little bit, set my foundation with a setting powder. This is the Ciate London Everyday Vacay. I received this in my BoxyCharm, and it's growing on me more and more. I like it. It's okay if there's a powder down and then you go in with a cream. It's not going to hurt anything. At least in this case, it's not. Okay, now the concealer that I'm going to use, or the highlighter. So when you're concealing, you can use something that's more, closer to your skin tone if you're trying to hide, blemishes and things like that. Now, for me, I use something that brightens and conceals. This is not too light and it's not too close to my skin tone, so it works. And I'm using the MAC Pro Longwear, MAC Pro Longwear, and the color NC30. So I'm just gonna squirt this on the back of my hand, and you can use your fingers. I'm just gonna use this brush here, and I'm gonna place this along right under my eyes. Center of my forehead. Chin. Cupid's bow. Later on, we're going to place product here, and I'll demonstrate that for you. You can go back in with that same, I'm gonna go back in with the same brush. Gosh, I'm gonna go back in. So I'm using the same beauty sponge that I used to blend in the foundation. I'm gonna use my finger to get in. I like to use my finger because it warms up the product as well and helps it move and melt into my skin more. And then the other side, same thing. So I'm pushing in, push, and blending out at the same time. Use my finger. Now we go in with the powder. When I'm applying contour, creating shadows, I like to use a fan brush. The fan brush, you know, it could be larger. This one is just, it's small. It fits right in to the areas that I need. And then I'm gonna go in and use this domed blush brush, but I use this to bronze my face. I use it for lots of things. So now here we go in with that Shade and Light palette by Kat Von D. And I'm going to use these two colors. This one's very loved. So placing it in, we go side to side. You really want to make sure that your foundation is set and dry before you put your powders on, because if it's not, the powder is going to stick, and that's when things get weird and muddy. When you're doing contour for stage, you want to put a little bit more on than you normally would, okay? Because when you're on stage, those stage lights just wash everything out, okay? So don't be afraid to pack more on than you normally would. So I'm going side to side, and then I'm brushing up, 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 up. I'm doing the circle up motion, right in the area where we place that cream contour. Do the same thing with my nose. I'm gonna take the fluffier brush and place it along the bridge of my nose. And now I'm also going to use a fluffy brush to work that forehead. Again, working into the scalp, brushing backwards into the scalp. Along the chin. I'm gonna use the same. Now, I'm using this dome brush, but I'm really just trying to use the tip of it to apply product. This brush here is similar to the stippling brush that we used to blend our contour, okay? Right? Same thing. Now, but this one's bigger and fluffier. Using a brush like this helps blend things into each other. So say I have a highlighter on, a bronzer on, and blush. If I blend them all together, you won't be able to tell where I applied one or the other. I hope that makes sense. It just helps blend everything into each other and helps make things look less cakey. I'm holding it at the end of the stick. So before I go in and apply that darker contour color, I'm going to blend first. I don't really need to do my forehead. This is the area that you really need to worry about it looking muddy. That's when it starts to just look like, this brown, ugly, just mess on your face. Been there. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of that darker shade, because again, this is for stage. Start off light. And I think I'm going to stop right there and blend again, getting that brush and blend. Now, in real life, this is enough. It may not be picking up on my camera. It may look lighter, but in real life, this is where I would stop. Now I'm gonna go in with this light yellowy shade right here, and this color right here. I'm gonna place this under my eyes to brighten things up. And yeah, I'm gonna go over my nose some. I'm just trying to blend everything into each other. Back in with that blending brush. Now, I'm going to take this air spun powder. This is a trick that I learned from working with drag queens. So I'm going to take a little bit and place it in the lid. I'm gonna get that same sponge. It's okay if it's wet. I like it wet because it's going to pick up product. It works better this way. Okay, I'm gonna use the pointy part, and I'm going to draw a line now to really chisel out the area under the contour. Okay, so I'll show you. Right below it and down into my chin. Same thing on the other side. I'm also going to place this on my nose some because I'm very oily, so I'm going to bake right there. I'm also going to bake right in here. I no longer bake under my eyes because it dries that area out too much. We'll talk about that another day. So we want to let this sit for about a minute. Okay, so let's start buffing this all the way. I'm gonna start at my forehead. I'm just softly holding at the end of the stick. Just softly brush off that powder. And the nose. And just side to side, windshield wiper motions, just back, forth, back, forth. You wanna brush up into that contour? Go for it. This is about what it should look like. From here, if you like, you can go in and spray your face, which is what I'm going to do, going back in with that MAC Fix Plus. I really like MAC Fix Plus because it's got because it has a lot of glycerin in it, and it adds moisture back to my face and also melts all of the products and powders sort of like into each other. Once our face has dried from setting it, we're now going to go in with a little bit of bronzer, which is not necessary, but I'm gonna go in with a little bit, and some blush and some highlighter. Now I'm gonna go in with that MAC Give Me Sun. You know, I think I forgot to go in with that darker color on my forehead, so I'm gonna go in with the Shade and Light palette. I'm gonna go in with that darker color and place that along my forehead. I'm trying to keep it up higher. I'm trying not to place the darker colors in too much in the center of my forehead, into my temples. And I'm going in with this Too Faced palette that smells yummy. Yeah, it's called Sugar Plum Cookie. It's from the Christmas collection. And we go in with this pink color right here. Berry. Back in with the fan brush. I'm going to use one of my favorite highlighters. It's by Wet n Wild, and it's the Mega Glow, and it's the Golden Flower Crown. Now, I'm going to use it on my cheekbones. You can stop right here. Some people do not like to use this kind of highlighter on their face when they're on stage, and the reason is it can make you look sweaty. It depends. So, depending on the lighting, depending on lots of things, I guess, the photography, you know, angles, it just can make your face look sweaty. So here's an example of if you don't blend, you know, if you don't use the Stippling blending brush after you've applied all of these powders, see that line? It just sort of looks like I've just have this line of highlighter right there. We want to make sure that we blend that. So I like to go and make this C shape. Again, it's too much, right? So I'm gonna place this on my Cupid's bow. And back in with that blending brush. And make sure that you can't see where that highlighter starts and stops. I'm gonna go back in with whatever's left over on this brush, on that brush that we used for bronzer and contour and blush, and go over it. And again, back in with my Fix Plus. Set. It smells good too. And here we have it. This is how I personally contour and highlight for the stage.